Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Twitter course. So, we are going to get going immediately with SQL. So, let's go ahead and jump into it. I, of course, have SQL Server Management Studio open. Right now, it's blank. The setup for it is actually very simple. Let's go to Google here. So, you can just download SQL Server Management Studio right here with this link. In the Microsoft documentation. Download SQL Server Management Studio right here, and then there's a download link right here, which will take you straight to it. And since I already have it downloaded, I'm just going to cancel that. But we'll also need something else. In fact, you can actually do this first, and it will download SQL, and you'll have the option of downloading SQL Server Management Studio with it. We're actually going to download SQL Server Express. So, in order to run SQL, we need two things. We need the SQL Server, and then we need the Management Studio, essentially, that allows us to interact with the server. So, SQL Server Express is a way of getting SQL Server on our machine without actually having to pay. It's essentially a free version of SQL. So you can just type that into Google, of course, and then down here, try SQL in the cloud or download a free specialized edition. We want Express right here. So it's very simple download. Go ahead, just hit all of the default settings. That's what I did at least. If you want, if you feel you need to, um, I guess, do more advanced settings, then feel free to look into those. However, for the sake of this tutorial, for the sake of this tutorial, I just went for all of the default settings. So now that you have SQL Server Express downloaded, which might take a second, as well as SQL Server Management Studio, you should be able to now connect. So when we hit connect, we have our server name here, and then using Windows authentication, so the authentication to get into your computer, we can just hit connect. Okay, so now we have this. If we open databases here, you should see nothing. I have a couple of databases right here that I've been playing around with. But of course, if this is first instance that you've downloaded, then you will likely see nothing here. So let's go ahead and change that now. So again, you should have SQL Server Express downloaded and SQL Server Management Studio now downloaded. So we're going to go ahead and create a new database. We can call this Twitter clone tutorial DB. All right. We hit add, or excuse me, okay. And now we have our database. If we expand it, we should see nothing in tables. And now we want to fix that. So we go to new, table. And so now our table, we want to have some properties in this table. But the first thing is we need to figure out what this table is going to do. So this table, we'll just go ahead and start with the user. This table is essentially going to have all of the data for each user in here. So the properties of this table would be things like an ID, a first name, a last name, email, password, just things that describe the user. Okay, and so then we can have multiple users here in this table. So we're going to specify column names, and then once we insert users into there, then those will be specific rows. So we are going to create a user ID, and then this data type is going to be an int, and then we're not going to allow nulls. So one thing that we need to do here, though, is we want to actually specify that this is going to be the unique identifier for each user. We want to also make sure that it is unique so that it actually increments with each user that we add. So one thing we need to do here is when we hit column name here, we should see our column properties. we need to go to Table Designer, which should be open. If it's not, just go ahead and click this arrow down. And then we need to go down to Identity Specification. So underneath Identity Specification, we hit is identity, and this is going to essentially specify whether or not this is the primary key or the unique identifier. So we can actually double click this and we can see it change to yes. So now this is our unique identifier, and it also increments by 1. So let's go ahead and add some more columns here. So we have first name, and excuse me, we're going to do varchar actually. So varchar is essentially, of course there are differences, or there's some slight differences, but for the most part varchar is very similar to a string. So we can also do last name, varchar here 50 as well. Whoops. Alright, varchar 50, no nulls, and then we're going to specify email. Oh, that's var binary, my bad. There we go, varchar. Okay. So let's go ahead and add this to, whoops, our email. There it is, okay. And password, same thing. Okay. All right, so now we have our first name, last name, email, and password. So those are essentially the very basic properties we're going to need for this table. So what we can do now is we can actually go over to table and name this users, or user. We'll just name it user. All right. We hit enter and there we go. So that's saved. We hit Control S to save it and we should be good. So one thing we don't see is our tables anywhere. Here we just saved a user table, so it should show up. So once you hit refresh, it should show the user. However, sometimes, so that worked for me. I was actually having an issue with it probably about an hour or two ago where it wasn't working. So what you can do is actually take this, excuse me, you can actually take this connection, exit out, and then reconnect right here. And then once you reconnect, you should be able to go in and see it. There you go. So now we have our database. We can hit, actually we're going to go to the database itself, right click, and then we are, actually no, excuse me. We're going to go into the tables. Sorry about that. We're going to go find our table. We're going to right click and then we're going to select the top 1000 rows, which of course will be nothing. But here we can actually see our user ID, first name, last name, email, and password. So there we go. We have our database set up. We have our first table, very basic. And then we're going to add in a user in the next video. So I didn't want to make this video too long and cram a bunch of stuff in here. I just wanted to get it set up and rolling so we can actually work with it in the next tutorial. So thank you guys for watching. Stay with me. We're gonna have a lot of fun here. So of course, stay with me to the next video. And again, thanks for watching.